Let's start off here. And I mean, everyone, you know, we're all talking about the economy. We see the Fed out there. We see, the U.S. government, the corporate media. They're continually trying to paint this picture that everything is fine. And in the background of all the propaganda, and you look through all the stuff they've been saying, we see other things happening in the economy. I mean, we see GDP, I mean, that's declining. Manufacturing declining, retail sales down. Looks like the housing bubble is popping. And then we hear the global central banks around the world, like in China, Japan, France, Brazil, Colombia, they're all dumping U.S. debt.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a sign that something is about to happen? I mean, why are these countries dumping the debt right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the most serious sign of this whole entire thing, the most serious sign is that the dollar, since 2008, because of TARP, because of Twist, because of ZERP, because of all the bailouts that have been done on Wall Street and all the quote unquote stimulus, what they've done is they've overstimulated the dollar to the point that it has become a toxic currency that is underlying every single financial instrument that has been chopped up and sold throughout the world as AAA securities. And these financial weapons of mass destruction, which you see coalesced with derivatives, have created such an environment of destruction, capital malformation, and risk, the likes of which we have never seen. And that is the end result of it, Dave, because of our monetary policies. We have created an environment of risk. And those that are in the know, certain central banks in certain countries that understand what's going on, certain economists in certain nations who are in charge of certain monetary policies in certain countries that are awake and aware to what is going on, are dumping and getting out of the dollar, and they're doing it at a rapid clip. The only reason, and I really mean this, the only reason why the dollar index hasn't collapsed in onto itself is simply because of pure intervention, manipulation, fraud, and graft. That is the only thing keeping the economy up. It's incredible, Dave, to witness such a thing. You and I have never seen this in our lifetime.
No, we have not. The amount of debt from the private Western Central Bank, it is so large right now. And what was it, like a year ago, maybe it was a year ago, Christine Lagarde was out there and they're talking about how they can reduce this debt because as it continually grows, it cannot be sustained. I mean, we have evidence from Greece where Greece is collapsing. We see Italy, we see France. They continually need to borrow more and more money from the ECB. Banks are failing. The U.S.'s debt is continually rising. And what I was talking about with Christine Lagarde, who was saying, we need to pay off, not pay down the debt, but pay a little bit off so we can keep the system going. And maybe we need like a 10% wealth tax. And we see out in Greece where, they're looking to have everyone register their wealth, movable and immovable assets. And it looks like this is going to go into effect February of 2017.
Jeez.
And it's looking like they might be the test case to see how this works out. Because it's to me, it's looking like, all right, cash under the bed. I mean, many people are not going to, just voluntarily say, hey, listen, I got $100,000 under the bed, but they want that. They want your art. They want your gold. They want everything. And then they want to tax you a certain rate. Do you see this spreading across to other countries?
Yeah, 1,000%. The reason for that is this. Southern Europe, and I need people to take a strong, hard look at these Southern European countries. They have always, for a lot of reasons, and for many times throughout many points in history, has served as a beta test to much of the Western world. Recently, we've seen in 2012, 2013, the first bail-in ever to occur, which was in Cyprus. The Cypriot people woke up and they found out 40-60% of their accounts are gone. We've seen that bail-in, transmuted its way all the way to Austria. where Austrians in a certain bank, I think it was called Hekta Asset Revolution, whatever the name is, they woke up to the fact that a great percentage of their profits or accounts have been pilfered. So we've seen this with bail-ins. We've seen this with negative interest rates. We're seeing how they're floating around. Now, with the whole thing with Greece, it's pretty interesting. They want the Greeks, like what Lagarde said, maybe if we could pay down the debt a little bit. I want you guys to really focus on what she just said. If we could raise the taxes, we can quote unquote pay down this debt a little bit. That's fancy talk. Okay, that's just fancy. That's wishful thinking. That is a smokescreen, Dave, because let's be honest here. Most people, they get their eyes glazed over when you talk about millions, billions, and trillions. These are just words that are thrown around so cheaply that people have no concept of it. So when guys like you, Dave, and myself, and Sean, and all the guys that are out there that are warning about this stuff, and we come out and we say, hey, you know what, your derivative debt is 1.5 quadrillion. That kind of goes over people's heads. And people need to understand that Lagarde, when she says that if we could, increase taxes to pay down just this debt a little bit, that is simply newspeak for we're going to steal your wealth. Because there's no way anybody, by raising any sort of personal taxes by 10% or even 100%, could pay down or even put a dent into the global debt that stands at 1.5 quadrillion. They can't do it. It's a mathematical impossibility. So the question becomes, and that multi-quadrillion-dollar question is, what is this tax really about? Well, it's further wealth extraction. The system is about to collapse. When they say, hey, we want you to register your bank accounts, how much cash on hand you have, if you have any, precious metals, pieces of art, if you, whatever, okay, your pet dog, register all of it, okay? Why? Because this way we have on a ledger what you own, what your quote-unquote net asset is. So when we collapse, and like I said, I've warned about this forever, Dave. I always said when a nation goes broke, its security apparatus goes from looking from threats from without and begins to look for threats from within, okay? And you have to understand this, and people really need to get this into their heads. When an economy collapses in a country, your biggest competitor is really not your neighbor, okay? Your biggest competitor for supplies, for precious metals, for food, for water, is the government itself. Because they are in a race against you to stockpile everything and the kitchen sink. So here it is, and then take what you have. So here's what the Greeks are doing. Give us all this information about you. So when the time comes when we implode, collapse, and or default, or goes into a massive economic downturn, which is only a matter of time, we will come and take what you have because we'll cite national security. Because there's no liquidity anymore in the banks in order to take them, Dave. That's the problem. Because there's no more liquidity, because central banks to this point have been stretched thin. That's why I laugh at people that say, oh, they could just keep printing forever. No, they can't. They can't keep printing forever. So we are reaching very close, Dave, to that mark, this clear line in the sand that I call the monetary climax. Okay, the monetary climax of printing to oblivion. We're reaching that point. There's just no more printing you could do. Now, if you notice this, Dave, first they start rolling out negative interest rates. And as the people are listening to this show, tuning into X22 Report, hearing Dave and I go back and forth, you have to understand there's 13 trillion, that's with a T, $13 trillion worth of government bonds that are just being traded negatively, that are in negative right now as we speak globally. So negative interest rates are becoming a reality. So that is pilfering. That is legalized robbery. Okay? And what has happened in every location where negative interest rates have gone forth? What has happened? Well, people quickly got their money out of the banks. Look in Japan. Vault sales, okay, and safe sales are through the roof. People are buying personal vaults, personal safes. It's going out it's like, gangbusters. It's going, okay? That's how big of a sale there is. And people are taking their yen and their gold and they're stashing it in their own personal vaults, okay? Now, The same thing is happening in Europe. So now the Europeans are like, wait a minute, we're rolling on negative interest rates. Only the dumbest of the dumb are keeping their accounts with us. What do we do with the rest of the people? We want to get their wealth too. Well, let's come up with this idea where they have to list every asset and they have to list all their wealth, and then we'll take a portion of that. This is the type of insanity that's happening. It saddens me that many in the West do not have the cojones, the spine, the intestinal fortitude to go up to these bureaucrats, punch them dead in the nose, and tell them to knock it off, get lost, or we're going to break your knees. What happened to that? I remember the good old days. That's what we used to do, Dave. But now it's just like, forget about it. These are the lords over us. And it's crazy as the entire Western world is being transformed into a neo-feudal serfdom. Unbelievable.
From what you're seeing right now, do you think the central banks, are they still in control of the economy worldwide, or do you think they're actually losing a little bit of the control of what is happening right now?
Oh, they're losing a lot of control. They're losing a lot of control. See, the two weapons that a central bank has is the manipulation of currency and the issuance of credit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they have literally, emptied their entire clip of ammunition, of all the financial tricks they have up their sleeve in order to correct, rectify, and fix this economy. There is nothing more they can do. This latest round of this proposal that's being floated around, which will be in effect at some point, which is negative interest rates, that is their latest trick. And they're trying that out. They're all out of ideas. What's happening is that the Western world Western world and fiat monetary policy is hitting a stone, rock solid wall of gold reality, Dave. And what's happening is, in response to all the paper fraud, in response to all the manipulation, in response to all the dishonesty, what is occurring is nations in the world that are awake, that are astute to what is going on, are reverting to a hard asset physical economy, with gold being the center focal point of all medium exchange and valuation. So in that type of a realm, the fictitious paper empires of the West, which have no gold, which have nothing to offer in this, and they have no real physical economies except for a handful of countries, they're at a loss. There's nothing more that can be done except manipulate, warmonger, rattle sabers, continue to extract the wealth of the population, at the same time beg to be part of the table, beg for a position at the table of what Russia, China, and the rest of the world is building. That's the reality that that Western central bankers are waking up to.
Do you think the U.S. government, the central bankers, the Fed here, are they prepared with backing this next currency with gold, or do you think the dollar won't be the next currency?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's a lot of stipulations, rumors. My good buddy Bix has Bixware. He has his theories on the Matsushita's gold and there's hidden gold, this, that, and the other. My personal take on it is what's going to happen with the U.S. Well, there's going to be two scenarios playing out. Okay, and one thing that me and Bix definitely agree on is there are good guys and bad guys. I think the facts are laid bare, because if it wasn't for the good guys, Dave, we would not be having the type of information and leaks that we're seeing.
Right.
So that being said, my philosophy is this: if the good guys in the United States win, I could see them defaulting the debt. I could see them reissuing a new currency, a dollar, but I could see that dollar being silver backed. And I see silver being a very dominant, currency backer for the Western Hemisphere, the United States, Mexico, Canada, and South America, because it's very plentiful here, and it's very valuable as well. I could see that happening. Okay, the bad guys win. I could see the issuance of two types of dollars. I could see a local domestic dollar, and colleagues, guys like Jim Willey, Great guy. Jim always talks about it. He calls it the Scheiß dollar, German for poop, right?
Right.
So a local, also with sources in Denmark who have claimed to have supposedly already seen it, what it looks like, and the design for it. So the local dollar will be devalued anywhere between 40 to 60%. The international trade dollar anywhere between 30 to 50%. But either way, it's going to absolutely slaughter and hurt the average working American, who will be at the mercy of these types of monetary policies. And between those two scenarios, there are variables. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. But what's happening is, will the Fed be in control of this? No, and again, it depends on which side controls the argument, the narrative, and controls the decisions that will bring these two realities to fruition. Which it will be, we don't know, and that's why it's important that people listen into programs such as this and other programs that are waking people up to this, so that the word can spread. We cannot stop, and I've said this so many times, Dave. We can't stop this economic collapse. But we can determine who controls the narrative on the other side of this. That's the most important thing.
True. V, when you mentioned the two different currencies, international and I think you said domestic currency,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
What happened for those people who have, let's say, retirement accounts, who are getting pensions, those people who have savings, who are holding on to the dollar, that have no gold whatsoever, they just have stocks. What happens to that?
Well, already look at American retirement systems. They're already in the toilet bowl. They're swirling in the toilet as we speak, right? Pension funds in this country are $8 trillion in the hole. They're all underfunded. The majority of them are underfunded. Like in New York, they're severely underfunded. Their books are cooked. Recently, I was read a great article by Dave Stockman, and my shout out to you, Dave Stockman, for pointing it out. I've been railing against Tesla for quite some time. Number one, I hate electric cars; they suck. Number two, I think Elon Musk is a con man par excellence, and he knows how to get his bread, buttered by somebody else. So I hate Tesla. I hate everything they do. So, and I've come to this realization is because Tesla's not selling cars. Tesla's selling carbon credits. Tesla's practically giving their cars away. Tesla cannot exist if it weren't for government subsidies. Okay? Tesla couldn't make soapbox racers if it weren't for government subsidies. They'd be out of business in no time, right? So what is Tesla doing? Well, here's a great example of crony capitalism. And David Stockman on ContraCorner.com, he spoke about a great article. The pension fund in Michigan, okay, one of the Michigan pension funds, it's a $1.5 billion fund, decided to buy almost 400,000 shares. It was like 375 or 400,000 shares of Tesla stock. This company makes no money, hasn't turned a profit, makes no money, loses money on every car they sell, Dave.
Mm-hmm.
But the Michigan pension fund buys 400,000 in Tesla stock. So now they have a vested interest in Tesla. So they spent about $80 million on Tesla stock. They won't buy gold, but they'll buy Tesla stock. Okay, so now the hardworking pensioners of this country are getting screwed over by stupid financial decisions such as this, and it infuriates me. It's wrong. It's criminal. And you see that now they have Tesla stock, and now they have a vested interest in it. And this is a company that once the coffers are cut, once the spigot of government subsidies is shuts off, which it will, and Dave, you and I know for sure it's going to happen, right?
Yes.
That Tesla stock goes to nothing because Tesla will pack up and leave, and Elon Musk will take his billions and fly out of the country. It is a disgusting scheme. And that's what's happening with pension funds. This is an example. The rest of the pension funds in this country, we've heard about what happened with John Kasich, the idiot over there, Mr. Former Lehman Brother Morgan Stanley fluffer boy, right? What did he do? Well, he took Ohio State's pension fund, signed it over to some cronies in Wall Street. And what did Wall Street do in the last 5 years? They drove $1 billion pension fund into the toilet. They drove it into the ground head first. And they smiled and laughed all the way through it. Okay? In 5 years, they've collected $780 million in fees. And I talk to any single person who deals with a financial advisor or a financial professional. It's a joke. And sitting across from them and saying, hey, what are you being charged to having these idiots manage your fund? Oh, 2%. No, it's not. Then we do a statement analysis, Dave, and we find out these pension funds are paying 10, 15% in fees. They're getting raped over the coals. And I do mean raped over the coals. You know? Unbelievable. So you couple that chicanery and the fact that negative interest rates are coming, and these pension funds and insurance funds require, you know, a certain percentage per year in order to maintain profitability. This is the second torpedo. I mean, you can count on one hand how many pension funds in this country, Dave, are actually funded. You can count it on one hand. There's less than 10. Okay, maybe two hands. Less than 10, Dave.
Right.
Unbelievable. So they're done. So all you pensioners, if you're not in that top 10 category, you're screwed. There's no pension waiting for you.
What happens when the dollar then is removed and they decide, okay, let's have a domestic currency and an international currency? What happens to all those electronic funds? Are they still there? Are they devalued?
They're all going to be devalued considerably. And yeah, they're all going to be devalued and recalculated into whatever the new currency and its price positioning would be. Secondly, whatever retirement account that you got floating out to like a 401k or IRA, that's going to be absorbed by who? Good old Uncle Sam. And that's why Odumbo, I think it was last year or the year before, he launched the Myra, you know,
right. Yes.
The governmental program to soak up all these, 401ks and Roth IRAs. I mean, Dave, isn't it amazing? It's like these guys are telegraphing to all of us what they're going to do. And people listen to this. This is some fear porn. This is like a conspiracy theory. No, dummy. It's an agenda. And you better get smart and figure out how this agenda plays out. Otherwise, this scenario is going to grip you by the throat very quickly and harshly, and you'll wake up to a reality where you have no money in the bank. You have nothing going for you. Your wealth is wiped up, and you're wiped out, and your kids are screaming because they're hungry. That's the reality for most people when they wake up to this day.
That is true. And V, you know something? When Obama and whatever talking head comes out and they tell you that, what they're doing, they always make it seem like it's in the best interest for the people. It's good for you. And they always spin it that way. Yeah. And when you look through it, you see that, no, this is not good for anybody. It's good for them.
Right.
It's good for the bankers. It's good for the corporations. It's good for everyone except for the people.
Exactly. And that's the problem with these politicians, man. They hide their disdain and avarice, to us. They hide it behind their altruism. Like they really give a rat's rear end towards us and what we care about in our fund. No, it's Hillary Clinton. Okay, why is Hillary in the spotlight? Well, she got caught, she got exposed, and she's an idiot. But the fact of the matter remains, Hillary Clinton is symptomatic of the system that we have in this country. Barbara Boxer is just as corrupt. Nancy Pelosi is just as corrupt. There's that lady named Cho Lee, whatever, from California, some dingbat congresswoman who went from $0 in her bank account to having $5 million because she's all of a sudden, Dave, she discovered a secret to trade the most volatile options trades and VIX trades the world has ever seen. I mean, option trades that would make the most experienced traders blush as to how risky it is. And this woman is able to pull it off and take $300, making it to $5 million in less than 5 years. Give me a break. It's a joke. I would love for her to show all of us, I would love for her to have to do these trades right in front of some SEC officials to see how it's done, right? But of course, the SEC won't do that because the regulators and these criminal politicians are walking in lockstep together.
That's absolutely true.
It's terrible, man. No, there's nothing that's good for us. It's all what's good for them. And the faster you realize that, folks, you got to understand, the system is gaming you. Okay? everything in this country is damn weaponized. I mean, we talk about the overt weaponization of, let's say, paramilitary or police or security apparatuses. But nobody looks at the fact that you have weaponized banking, which, by the way, is going to be a title of this book that I'm writing, right? Weaponized banking. Okay, nobody looks at that. That banking is weaponized against you. The internet is weaponized against you, right? All these things are weaponized against you. And the faster you wake up to the fact that you can no longer be a passive participant in an active media, but you yourself need to be active and participating and filtering information and finding out for yourself what is real, what is truth, what is not. The faster you do that, the better off you will be.
I just wanted to switch gears here, and I just wanted to talk about the Middle East for a sec.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
We know Russia, they've been bombing the Islamic State like crazy. Now they're using an airbase in Iran.
Yes.
And they're just, the territory of the Islamic State is shrinking down to nothing.
Oh, yeah. These guys are like, shaving off their beards, putting on burqas, and hightailing it out at any available opportunity. The Russians are doing a fantastic job. Bashar al-Assad's forces are doing a fantastic job. Hands off to them. People who call Assad a tyrant, a madman, a dictator, this, that, and the other, don't understand Syria. They don't understand anything. I mean, the guy is an Alawite Muslim. He's secular. He's incredibly moderate. Christians, look, apart from my mother's side, come from an ancient Syrian Christian family that was a merchant class. Okay, Christians have been living in Syria. Okay, there's so many Christians living in Syria, hundreds of thousands of them, for thousands of years, no problem. Until ISIS showed up, and let's be honest, let's call it ISIS. Mm-hmm. ISIS showed up and creating all this muckety-muck, right? So, yeah, Putin's doing a great job bombing it, but isn't it funny, Dave, that as the Russians are wiping the floor with them, the U.S. is dropping supplies, quote-unquote, for moderate forces in Syria, right? I mean, right. Give me a break.
And we know what these supplies are. They're rearming. They're, it's everything. But China now is getting involved.
Yep.
Now they're in the picture. They're in the Middle East arena right now. Mm-hmm. Where is all this going? What is the United States doing there? And where is this all going to go? I mean, what's their plan?
Well, the U.S.'s plan, okay, you got some neocons and neolibs, which are basically, two turds in the same toilet bowl. Their plans are to create as much ruckus, try to bring us to the brink of war. I don't think these lunatics want us to go into a nuclear type of exchange with the Russians or the Chinese. We'll be wiped out very rapidly. But they want to bring us to that level. Play chicken. We're playing a game of nuclear chicken all over the world. We're doing it in the Middle East. We're doing it in the South China Seas. And these are posturing. And I think, and I'm hoping and praying, and I know that Putin sees this, but at the same time, Putin and Xi Jinping are going to take the required measures to make sure that these idiots in D.C. don't get too happy on the trigger finger, okay, and right. God forbid launch a nuke or something, or do something stupid. So they're very careful, and also I thank God that there are good guys in the military that are preventing this from happening as well. Nobody wants a war. It's going to be suicide. It's going to be mass death for the entire world if we go into a nuclear exchange. So there's a resistance to this, and you know what? The good guys, as well as the Russians and the Chinese, have figured out something. And the weak underbelly of this entire globalization, New World Order elephant, Dave, is the dollar. So the more bellicose the U.S. is becoming, the more saber-rattling that the U.S. is doing, the key to kill this mad elephant that is rummaging through the forest, eating up everybody's harvests and wrecking all the villages here, is to take a massive gun, load it with a golden bullet, and it's called a de-dollarization gun, and it's going to be pulled by the Russians and the Chinese, and that will be the end of the elephant. And that's what they have to do. They're going to have to kill the dollar before these idiots wind up killing all of us. And that's exactly what's happening globally. That's what we see earlier on the show when we talked about the dollar dumping.
Do you think the U.S. will just back out of Syria and say, okay, we're done here? Because once Russia and now China, that is also now helping the military with Assad, once they remove the Islamic State, what is the purpose of the United States in Syria? They're there now to fight the Islamic State. They're bombing to get rid of the terrorism, when we know this is all fake. But this is their story. This is the tale they're telling the world. Once Russia brings the Islamic State to almost nothing, what does the United States do at this point?
Well, you look at the situation in Syria. They can't get involved. They've tried, setting up false flags as a pretext to get involved. If Assad sets off a chemical weapon, then that's the red line, and we're going to go ahead and get involved. It's a human rights violation. It says one of the biggest human rights violators in the world. So what happened? In September of 2013, a chemical weapon was launched. It was, these jihadis who have an IQ of 50 were videotaping themselves doing it, and that whole narrative fell apart on Obama's face. So everywhere that they've done, and what they've done to turn, like MH17 being shot down over Ukraine, right? All these things, all these false flags, in order to create a bigger crisis, to draw the Russians in, just to chaos for chaos sakes, so they can dump the economy and blame the Russians and the Chinese for dumping the economy and ruining the dollar, which is really, we're the ones who are ruining the economy and killing the dollar. All those false flag pretexts have blown up in their faces, Dave. So is the U.S. going to get more involved in Syria? No. They're involved as much as they're going to get involved. There's a lot of pushback from the Pentagon. It's the CIA cronies that are running the shop there. You've seen some of these guys. These guys are brilliant. A couple of them have been caught in Moscow. Have you seen that, Dave? Have you seen pictures of these elite operatives wearing blonde wigs that barely fit properly, looking like absolute stoned hippie kids coming out of a drug rave party? I mean, have you seen these pictures? It's incredible. This is what the CIA is recruiting these days. I mean, I've had this talk with a buddy of mine. I said, if you're going to be the nefarious evil empire on the planet Earth, at least be good at it. At least be good at it. These guys are terrible, Dave. Absolutely terrible. But in terms of what's going on, is there further involvement? No, I think it's going to be more saber rattling. It's going to be more, hey, look at us, Russia. We're 50 miles from your border, and we're going to do a military exercise. Look at this old, antiquated pieces of equipment that we're pushing up towards your border. Are you frightened? And the Russians sit there and laugh. They have like energy weapons that could just shut that whole thing down in a matter of seconds, and it'll be an absolute terror storm at that point. Same thing in the South China Seas. We're floating these destroyers and ships into these islands that China is having China's being aggressive. They're being absolutely aggressive. Okay, so China takes 6 islands, which territorially and historically have been part of their territorial fishing waters since 600 AD, Dave. China takes 6 islands, they start developing, and we get into a conniption fit. Meanwhile, Vietnam has 40 islands. We don't say nothing. Well, I guess that's okay, because Vietnam is one of our buddies, so it's okay. Unbelievable. The rest of the world has woken up to this fraud, and even the countries that are in the South China Sea, they're working out the differences with themselves peaceably. They're all part of the ASEAN, the Asian South Economic, cooperation they have going on. They're all part of the ASEAN group, right? And they're the solutions. Why? Because economics is the underlying driver for every human activity. And the people say, hey, you know what? Let's just, figure out a mutually beneficial relationship for all of us. You guys could have your 6 islands. The only one that's making a big deal of it is the friggin' U.S. Why? Because, oh my God, China's aggressive. Give me a break. China ain't building those 6 islands off the coast of L.A. They're doing it 6,000 miles away. Leave them alone. Unreal, Dave.
That's true. I mean, it's in the South China Sea.
Yeah, it's not in. It's not in the New York Harbor. China building islands in New York Harbor.
Where is all this headed? What's your timeline for the economy losing steam, crashing, and collapsing? I mean, when you look at everything that's going on in the world, what's your timeline? Where are we headed?
Well, so far I've been pretty spot on. I said 2015 when the dollar's going to, lose its prominence as world reserve currency. It has done that. That has come and gone. That's when the dollar dumping really started to accelerate at that time. And I said 2016, the wheels come off. It started to in January, and it's been happening. And I said that, in January, I said, get ready for the summer of chaos. And here we are. We've been doing this summer of chaos thing for a while. And I said in October 2015, I said, hey, the gold, the precious metals are going to turn around, second half of 2016, right around June, July. I said that on Greg Hunter's USA Watchdog show, and boom, that's exactly what happened. The $1,300 an ounce floor has been put in for gold, $20 an ounce for silver, and it's off to the races. So where's it going to go? Well, I think going into this fall is going to be very critical. I think it's going to be very critical. I think there's some sell-offs coming. There's going to be more market manipulation. I think economically we're going to take some serious blows. How it will say and what that would be, I don't exactly know as of yet, because it's not just one thing, Dave. It's multiple things. The question is, let's say you have 1,000 torpedoes in the water, and they're all coming at you at 450 knots. Which one is going to hit you first? And when it does hit you, is it going to be the port, or would it be starboard? Would it be the aft, or would it be the bow? Which part of the boat gets hit on the USS Titanic or the USS Economy that we're facing here? So anything can happen. But I think 2017. I think by the second quarter, this thing is going to be just about wrapped up. And I think by 2018, second quarter, going to second quarter, I think we're going to have that complete revaluation. We're going to have a global economic reset and the issuance of a new trade note, new currency. I think that's what we're looking at.
V, thank you very much for being on the X22 Report Spotlight. Once again, how can people see your work?
Oh, they can go on roguemoney.net. Check out the work over there. You could also check out our YouTube channel, Rogue Money. You could listen to all the shows there. We do our live radio shows. We stream it over there. And our podcast, if you guys have like an iOS device, Apple product, whatever, just go to their podcast app and type in Rogue Money. You'll get all the updated stuff. So every morning we do Mornings with V. Fridays at 8 p.m. we have the Rogue Money radio show. We have guests on. I do my talking. And then every Wednesday at around like 1-2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, me and Bix, we do Hump Day with Bix and V, which is our hilarious take on the global economy and everything that's happening in the world. So that's the best way.
V, once again, thank you